Hey guys, Tina here with Amaryllis Acres Homestead. I am popping on really quick today, kind of an impromptu video. I've got to make some beef stock, and so I figured since I was going to be making a few batches of this, I would take you guys along and show you how I make my homemade beef stock. As you guys know, we butchered our first cow a few weeks back, and we have a ton of beef, and they saved all the bones for us so that I can make beef stock, and I'm really excited. My recipe is very simple for my beef stock. I do, of course, bones from our cow, and then I also do carrots, onions, celery. I save all of my scraps when I'm cooking, so if I've got asparagus tips and celery tips and scraps from shredding carrots and things like that, I save all of that and I just have a gallon-sized Ziploc baggie in the freezer, kind of just an ongoing baggie, and I just kind of stuff scraps in there, and that's what I use when I make my chicken stock and my beef stock. So it's a very frugal way of saving those scraps and turning them into something else that is phenomenal. You guys, beef stock, chicken stock, homemade is so good for you. Very good for your immune system, and there's nothing better on one of those days where you've kind of got the sniffles, a little bit of a cold going on. Heat up a little jar or a little cup of beef or chicken stock in the microwave and just sip on that, and it's going to give you that boost that you need, and it's so soothing as well. So behind me I have all of my ingredients for my beef stock, so I'm going to go through those with you. Now remember, the ingredients to the stock can be anything that you want it to be. There's no rule to this. There's nothing saying you can't add, you know, more carrots or more celery, or even like potato peelings and things like that. Now I would recommend that if you're going to use peelings from, you know, your scrap bag, that they are organic. I don't want to put potato peels or carrot peels and things like that in my stock that aren't organic, that have been sprayed with pesticides and everything else, because then that's what's going to be going into our stock and we're going to be consuming that. So I only use the peelings if they're from an organic vegetable. Alright, so what I have here is my ingredients for my beef stock. Very simple, you guys. This takes just a few minutes. And basically all we do is we add all of our ingredients into the crock pot, and we let this cook overnight on low, and then we'll be ready for the next step. So the crock pot's gonna do it all for you. What I have is my beef bones. As you guys can see, it's just enough to cover the bottom layer of my crock pot. And then I've got carrots, onions. I had a couple onions in the fridge that were getting ready to go bad, so I'm gonna throw those in there too. Lots of celery. And then what I've got here is 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And what the apple cider vinegar does is it helps to draw the marrow out of the bones and bring out all those nutrients and vitamins into your stock. So don't forget your apple cider vinegar step, because that's really important. And what I've added here is a pinch of salt, a pinch of pepper, a pinch of rosemary, thyme, oregano, and I think that's it. Did I forget anything? I don't think so. So we're gonna add all these ingredients to the crock pot, and then all we're gonna do is top it off with water, and then we're gonna set it. So let's go ahead and add our carrots and our onions. And our celery. Mix those around a little bit. And then I'm gonna add my seasonings. And then don't forget your vinegar, apple cider vinegar. And make sure to get that in there. Oh, it already smells so delicious. I also have a baggie here of celery tips. And I have these frozen in the freezer. Like I said, this is what I do when I'm cooking dinners. If there's any scraps, I save them. And then I like to put them in my stock. And you can be creative and have fun with it, you guys. Add whatever you want. The more veggies, the better it's gonna be for you. After you get everything in there, we're just going to top this off with some water. All right, I'm gonna get a little bit more water because you wanna make sure that all of this is covered completely. All right, got a little bit more water here to top everything off. All right, guys, so we're gonna top this with our lid, and we're gonna set this crock pot. I like to set it to low. All right, so we're gonna set this overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow and we will strain out all of the solids, and we'll be left with a beautiful golden liquid that's gonna be our beef stock. And then we're gonna can this up, and it's gonna be really fun. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Hey guys, welcome back to day 2 of making our homemade beef stock. So our beef stock has been simmering overnight in the crock pot on low, and today what we're gonna work on is straining out all of the solids from the liquid. And once that is done, what I like to do is let that liquid set in the refrigerator. Now, you can let it set in the refrigerator for a few hours, overnight, even a couple days if you want to. What I typically do is when I decide to do chicken stock or beef stock, I do several batches for about 4 to 5 days straight. And I'm just loading them into the refrigerator once they're done. And what will happen is if there's any fat, it will rise to the top, and you'll be able to just scrape that off with a spoon because you don't want to can the fat. So allowing it to cool in the refrigerator for a little bit is going to allow that to separate. Sometimes you might not get very much fat, so don't be alarmed if you don't. When I do chicken stock, our chickens are homegrown chickens. There's not a lot of fat on them at all, so I don't get a lot of fat in the chicken stock. What I end up with is several batches of beef stock in the refrigerator. Once everything is done and I'm ready to can it up, I take all of those out, I put them in a big stock pot, and I heat that up, and then I can it. And we're gonna do that here in a couple days once we're done with all these batches of beef stock. So let's get started today. I'm gonna show you guys what we're gonna do next. Okay, so what I have here is my crock pot with all the goodies in it that we put in there yesterday. And what I like to do before I dump it into a strainer, just because I don't want all that hot liquid to splash me in the face, I like to just take this is actually my cheese spoon, but I like to use this and just take out all the solids and put them into a bowl. And we give these to the pigs. The pigs love it when I make homemade stock because they get all these vegetables and all the goodies minus the bones, of course. So, and it makes it easier when you're actually dumping your liquid through the strainer. And this stock already looks amazing. I'll show you guys in a second. It's just this gorgeous golden color. And we use chicken stock and beef stock for everything. If I'm gonna saute vegetables or steam them, if I'm gonna make rice, you know, normally you make your rice with water. Everything I do, I use stock because it's so good for you. And it's a great way to get all those nutrients and vitamins into your body. And it tastes delicious. All right, so I'm gonna finish getting all these solids out of here, and then we will put this through our tea cloth. So take your clean tea towel, and you're just going to lay it over your strainer. What I have here is just a regular pot, and then just a strainer inside of it. So we're gonna set that tea towel in there, and then we're going to pour our liquid through there. This could be dangerous. Yes, okay. Here we go. Actually, I'm gonna turn this way to make it a little bit easier for me. Okay. Ooh. I didn't make a mess on camera. Success. We're gonna go ahead and let this sit here for a couple minutes and let it finish draining through. It's working through the rest of the solids right now. Once this is done, we're just going to put this pan covered in the fridge. We're just gonna go ahead and load up our crock pot with our next batch of stock. So if you're gonna do chicken stock, it is the same thing as the beef stock recipe. The only thing that's different is instead of beef bones, you're gonna use your chicken carcass, and you're also gonna throw in 2 or 3 chicken feet, which is in my chicken butchering video. I talk about how to prep those feet and get them ready for chicken stock. All right, this is about done. I'm gonna pop this in the fridge, and then I will see you guys again in a couple days. See you in a bit. right, so here we are. It's been about 5 or 6 days now, and I've been working on my stock, and I've done several batches, and I've got it sitting in the fridge now, letting the fat solidify so that I can scrape it off. And tonight we're going to pressure can it for long-term storage. I don't know if you can tell behind me, but we've got a bunch of beef stock. I've saved one of my bowls here so that I can show you how I peel off the fat. Look at that. So exciting. This is very jiggly or gelatinous, right? So it's kind of like beef jello. This is really the holy grail of stock. If you guys use stock from the grocery store, you know that it's liquefied. And that's because it doesn't have all of the vitamins and nutrients and fat in it that you might get from your homegrown cow. This is very exciting. It's very good for you. This is caused from the marrow in the bones that's extracted during the cooking. So this can give you an idea of just how much fat I got from our cow. And I'm not even done. I've got one bowl left here that I need to scrape off the fat. And you can see the layer that's solidified there. And I wanted to show you this one. Look at that. This just came off in one thick slab. All right, let me see if I can do this one-handed while holding the camera. Look at that. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, now obviously you've got some left here on the bottom. So what you can do is just scrape that off with a spoon. If you got clean fingers, go ahead and use your fingers. This is your stock, guys. Okay, so we're gonna get that off the best that we can. And I'm just gonna set that over here. So now that we have all of the fat scraped off of our beef stock, we're gonna transfer it all into the stock pot and reheat it for canning. Here we go. We're adding our beef jello to our stock pot to reduce it back down to a liquid. And while I'm working on that, I have my canning lids and my rings boiling over here to sanitize them. In the dishwasher, I have my canning jars already cleaned and sanitized. I get them together and put them in the dishwasher for a cycle, and then I leave them in here until I'm ready to use them, and it keeps them nice and hot. You want to make sure that you don't put your hot stock into cold jars. That'll crack your jars for sure. Make sure that your jars are nice and warm before you add your stock to them. Now this is also a way that you can sterilize your jars. If you don't want to do them in the dishwasher or hand wash them, you can preheat your oven to 225 and sterilize them for 20 minutes. It's also a great way to reheat your jars if you have washed them and they cooled off too much and you want them to be nice and warm before you add your stock. So we've got our stock pot full of beef stock here. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn up the heat to medium and just let it slowly start heating up. Make sure that you don't heat it too quickly and keep an eye on it and stir frequently because you don't want to burn it. Let's talk for a second about what to do with all that fat. Remember all that fat that we got off the top? All right, don't throw it away. Whatever you do, don't throw it away. It is full of vitamins and minerals and fatty acids and all kinds of nutrients that are so good for your gut. What you can do is take your fat and you can either put it on the stovetop and reduce it back down to a liquid, or you can throw this fat back in your crock pot, simmer it, cook it on low, and let it liquefy again. And then you can ladle it into clean mason jars. You're left with beautiful oil that you can cook with. Set those jars in their fridge and they will last for months. And the best part is, you guys, you made it at home, so you were able to control the quality of it. So our stock is just about ready to go into our jars. My lids and my rings are sterilized, and I'm heating my jars in the oven right now. So you're also going to need a ladle, a funnel, your magnet for your lids, and then also your little gripper so you can grab your jars. See how that's liquefied from that jello that we had earlier? And then we're just gonna ladle this into our jars. Make sure that you leave your inch of headspace at the top of the jar. So now I'm gonna work on filling up the rest of these jars. Once you get them all filled up, you wanna take a wet cloth and clean the rim of your jar really good. You always wanna inspect your jars before you use them, make sure there's no cracks, because then they won't seal properly. After you clean the rim, we're gonna grab one of our lids from our hot water, gently place it on top, and then grab a ring. And you're gonna tighten this just finger tight. Okay, so I filled my pressure canner with about 2 inches of hot water, and I'm just following the directions from my canner manual. So it says 2 to 3 inches of hot water. And with the canner, the All-American canner that I have, you can double stack your jars. So we're gonna do that tonight. We're gonna have 2 layers of jars in the canner. So now we're gonna gently place our jars one by one, and it's okay if they touch. I used to think that they weren't allowed to touch, but it's fine. Look at that beautiful stalk. All right, we've got our pressure canner all filled up with a total of 32 pint-sized jars. So now we're gonna take it outside and we're gonna get it going. So here we are. We have got our jars in our canner, and now we are going to process them and pressure can them for long-term storage. Because I have the All-American canner, the really big one, I choose to do my pressure canning on our turkey fryer burner versus my glass top stove in the house. Some people say that they can pressure can on a glass top stove just fine with no problem. When I had a smaller canner, I could do that, but with this big one, I'm afraid that it might get too hot, that it might break my stove. So I don't want to do that. All right, our processing time is done. So here we are the day after we finished canning our beef stock, and we've got 32 pints of beef stock here that will last in the pantry for up to a year and sometimes longer. When you're done with your pressure canning, you want to take your jars and just clean them with some warm soapy water with a little sponge or a rag, nice and gentle, just to clean around the edges. So just give these a good wash and dry them off, and then store them in a cool, dark place. So you don't want to store your jars with your rings on them. There's a lot of people that say you can. You know, it's your kitchen. You know what I'm saying? I always believe, do your research the best you can and then make a decision that works for you and your family. You know, they say that bacteria and everything can get stuck underneath the rings and build up and spoil the food inside the jar. These jars are nice and sealed. They're sealed when you can no longer push that little button down in the center. So, you know, they're gonna be just fine in your pantry without the ring. You don't need the ring on the jars. Once they're sealed, they are sealed and they're good to go. If you guys liked this video and you found it helpful, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. We love sharing this journey with you guys, and we sure appreciate you being here with us. All right, until next time, see you later.